Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Mostly Accurate, the show where we sip the tea, spill the chaos, and dig into stories that make you laugh, gasp, and occasionally stare at the wall like, what the hell did I just hear? I am your host, as always, Monica, and today's episode is. It's a lot. We've got beer trucks turning highways into slip and slides, police responding to a missing donkey named Dolly Parton. Yes, really. And the heartbreaking deep dive into People magazine investigates Vanish in the Heartland, where a woman's disappearance turns into a years long fight for the truth, justice, and closure. And because this is mostly accurate, we're ending things a little closer to home with a mom moment that is very much for me. 6 years of hair loss, nearly 2 decades of dealing with it, and the decision that changed the way I see myself in the mirror. So, whether you're here for the absurd, the tragic, or the deeply personal, you're in the right place. So, take a breath and let's get into it. All right, friends, let's ease into this episode gently by talking about beer wreckage and a fugitive donkey. Because if you think the world is fine right now, I have two news stories that would like a word. So, story one. Picture this. It's early morning, Dodge County, Wisconsin. The sun is barely up, the coffee hasn't kicked in, and commuters are mentally preparing for another day of whatever this timeline is. And then, boom, a semi truck hauling 264 half barrels of New Glarus beer. I don't know. I've never heard of this beer. I don't drink beer. I am gluten sensitive. So, New Glarus. I'm just going to say that if I butchered it, Wisconsin, I'm very sorry. But anyway, this truck decides today is the day it's had enough. The truck veers off US Highway 151, clips a guardrail, and tips over onto its side, turning the highway into what can only be described as a beer themed obstacle course. Kegs everywhere. It's like frickin' Donkey Kong out there, okay? Not gently placed, not neatly stacked, just like industrial size quantities of Wisconsin's pride and joy. And, the joy is now scattered across the road like the world's saddest Oktoberfest. Somewhere, a Wisconsin dad felt a disturbance in the force. Northbound traffic completely shut down because nothing says morning commute like staring at hundreds of beer kegs while emergency crews figure out how to unspill the semi truck. And then here's the thing, they couldn't even like upright the truck at first. They had to remove every single keg before they could like deal with the semi truck by itself, which means first responders showed up expecting a routine accident and instead got beer cleanup duty. Only one person was treated for minor injuries, thankfully, no serious harm reported, and multiple agencies responded to manage the scene, secure the area, and keep everyone from, I don't know, turning this into a DIY tailgate. We are in Wisconsin after all. Let's be honest. If this had gone unchecked, Wisconsin residents would have been arriving with like lawn chairs and coolers. Eventually, crews cleaned up the highway, traffic resumed, and order was restored to the highway. But for a brief, beautiful, beautiful moment, Highway 151 became a monument to poor decisions and excellent beer. Wisconsin, where even the accidents are on brand. All right, so that was fun. Story number two. We're sticking in the Midwest. We're moving back to Michigan across the lake. Now, if you think that story was peak Midwest, allow me to raise you a miniature donkey named Dolly Parton. Yes, Dolly Parton. In Oakland County, Michigan, police received reports of an animal loose on the roadway, which already feels like the opening scene of a children's book or, a very like niche Hallmark movie. Turns out Dolly Parton, the miniature donkey, had made a break for it after slipping through an open gate. No manifesto, no accomplices, just vibes. She was spotted casually strolling along the road, unbothered, unhurried, living her best life like she had somewhere important to be, probably church. Authorities were notified. Michigan State Police responded, and somewhere in dispatch, somebody had to say the words, "We're looking for a donkey. Her name is Dolly Parton." Troopers located Dolly safely and managed to escort her back home without incident, proving that police training covers everything from high speed chases to gentle donkey negotiations. Meanwhile, her companion donkey, Henry, which is, oh my God, so cute, Dolly and Henry, apparently decided he didn't need law enforcement and returned home on his own like a responsible adult donkey. Henry said, I've even had enough. I'm tired. I have boundaries. Dolly, however, completed her adventure and was safely reunited with her people. No injuries, no damage, and no word on whether she'll be releasing a country album about her brief life on the run. Honestly, iconic behavior. So, just to recap, for our first segment, one state shut down a highway with beer, another deployed police resources for a wandering donkey named after a music legend. And if you wonder why the news feels fake lately, it's because reality has writers who don't believe in subtlety. All right, take a breath. We have got more coming. All right, friends, welcome back and buckle up because this next story is layered like an overcooked lasagna of drama, tragedy, and rural intrigue. And yeah, an LOL size dose of what on earth is happening here. Today, we are breaking down HBO Max's People Magazine Investigates Vanished in the Heartland. This is season 9, episode 1, where we dive deep into the disappearance and murder of Dee Warner, a Michigan woman whose life looked perfect from the outside. But as they say, hell hath no fury like a farm feud gone sideways. At least maybe they say that in Michigan. I am not trying to just pick on the Midwest, you guys, but I just clicked this and then it just happened to be a Midwest story. So here we are. And our story kicks off in Tipton, Michigan. I actually had to Google where this is because I have never heard of Tipton, Michigan, nor did I know where it was. But it is rural, serene, and fields for days. And right in the middle of it is a woman named Dee Warner, a woman who built a business empire, raised 4 kids, and then 5, and then ran a family farm that wasn't just successful, it was like serious money. Here, $10 million a year, serious money. She originally married a guy named Tim Bach. They had 4 children together. They started a farm and the whole like rural power couple vibe until it just didn't work out. Dee was an extroverted alpha female, someone who gets shit done, basically. And Tim was not that. So naturally, the marriage drifted apart. So then we fast forward. She meets a man named Dale Warner. He was 33 at the time. At this point, when both families were doing the classic like rival family thing, like I guess the Warners and Dee's family, it was just like a big farm feud. Like it was like a whole like taboo thing like wrestling clans from like a Hallmark spinoff or something like that. Um, they both like divorce their spouses, hook up, and then they marry in 2006. So it was like a whole like Romeo and Juliet thing, you guys. Okay. Farm families not getting along, but whatever. So they bring a lot of like business energy and 8 combined kids into the mix, basically. So you can just like smell the Thanksgiving drama. Am I right? They took their fertilizer and trucking empire and turned it into something that racked in like serious cash for years, nearly 10 million annually, like I said. And that's not like chump change. That's a business they could fight about in court, and they eventually did. Then boom. So we're fast forwarding to 2021. Dale and Dee have a child together. So that makes number 9, a daughter. You know, life looks good at this point, except it really wasn't. So we're fast forwarding again to April 25th, 2021. When just like everything normal about this family stopped being that way. Now, here is where the mystery actually begins. It was a Sunday. April 25th, 2021, one of Dee and Dale's daughters rolls up to the family home for the usual like Sunday brunch, but like nobody is there. There's no Dee, there's no Dale, and there's no Angelina, the youngest kid that they had together who was 9 years old at the time. So the family panics. They pull footage from the farm's cameras, and lo and behold, there's Dale on the video the night before. But according to what he tells the daughter and the police, they had an argument, him and Dee did. He gives sort of this like migraine massage to Dee. She passes out on the couch, and around early morning, like 6 a.m., he leaves for work, you know? Oh, and the wedding ring. So Dee wore a wedding ring, obviously. And he shows the daughter on that Sunday that it was just left right there on the nightstand because that's reassuring, right? He says Angelina wanted to spend the night with a friend that night. So no one saw her, and suddenly, like, they start searching the house. Luckily, Angelina's safe, Dale is safe. And then they realize like Dee's hair supplies are gone, like her makeup, her phone, they're just all gone. Like she left town on purpose, and yet something still wasn't adding up. And that's kind of like the picture Dale was trying to paint. By early evening, 6 p.m., the police are called at that point because Dee has been gone all day and phone is just off. Like nothing's going through. They're calling her, nothing's happening. And here's where we go from like a weird disappearance to full tilt investigation mode. So early in the investigation, the night of, police start searching everywhere: the home, the farm, thousands of acres with like sonar, dogs, drones, and everything. They're searching the property with a helicopter, with like a laser grid, but like nothing. No D, no body, no clues whatsoever. So Dale tells detectives that Dee was upset the night before, allegedly because of an altercation with an employee from one of her businesses, her trucking business. She was going to kill herself, according to what Dale says. And then he just went to bed. So I don't really know how that adds up, but maybe this is where he was like, calm down, and then gives her this weird migraine massage thing and she passes out. I don't know. This is Dale's story. Meanwhile, coworkers chime in with stories of business frustrations, tax arguments, and tensions that sound like a corporate HR nightmare, except this one does not involve cubicles, it involves farm trucks. So there's like two employees there. One of them was named Todd, and his brother worked there too. And he claimed that Dee owed him like money, like she was some kind of like local burrito vendor or something. Todd said that like he was the one who really started the trucking business, and this is the argument that Dee was having with that employee. So when police followed up, the whole thing got like super muddy, super fast, but like nobody's arrested at first. So in order to get into these trucks, like people had to like log in, like you had to like digitally like log into the truck. So Todd, the night that Dee goes missing, like logs into the truck, but he uses a different name. Like he doesn't use his own name. And then he just like takes the truck, he stops home, and then he like goes down this route near Chicago. And it was pretty normal for him to do that route. It's just weird that he does that. And then, Todd, he had a lady companion, we'll just call her that he frequented, which, let's be real, it sounds like some kind of like true crime weekly's dream cameo, but like this is real. So here's the deal. The more people that are interviewed, more theories are popping up, and less sense is made, and everybody had a story and none of them were like concrete, and everything starts getting weird and messy. Again, the investigation with Todd drops. Okay, so as months are dragging on, there's still no sign of Dee. Her family starts to look less at strangers and more at the people closest to her. Dale starts acting weird. He's like cutting off communication with Dee's kids, especially Angelina, which is like their youngest daughter, together, which is like a classic red flag. Not that red flags need to be classic, but it's pretty obvious something's going on here. So then a private investigator is hired by Dee's family and he starts like poking around into her finances. And oh boy, turns out Dale created a duplicate like company name and then it moved assets around, allegedly forging documents and, basically stayed in control of everything Dee had access to. So these were financial shenanigans straight out of like, this can't be real, but also it is. Michigan State Police eventually take over the investigation, which the family hopes will bring like fresh eyes after years of crumbs and dead ends. Nothing's going on. So now they, rewind and they start looking at Todd again and remember his prostitute friend. So they have these logs that he did frequent the same woman. So the investigators actually meet up with her and they're like, okay, there's a good chance that this could have been him that killed Dee. And so they kind of like get her on their side. And when Todd goes to meet up with her, she's mic'd and she's like asked to help with the investigation basically, like, so she was really good at it. She was super helpful to police and it becomes super clear that Todd had nothing to do with her murder. He is eventually just like wiped off the list as a suspect and cleared. So on November 21st, there's a breakthrough and an arrest. After nearly 2.5 years of silence, police have like a massive move. They arrest Dale John Warner at his home on open charges of murder and evidence tampering in the disappearance of Dee. Yes, murder, officially. Not missing woman presumed dead, not probably ditched town for like a cabin in Arizona, murder. He is being held in the Leelanau County Jail ever since. Bond initially set at like huge figures, later reduced a bit, but still like astronomical because, yeah, the allegations were very intense. And let's not overlook this. Authorities also arrest his son, Jaron Warner, in connection with tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact. That shocked folks until May of 2025 when those charges were reportedly dropped. Why? Hard to say without deeper court records, but it's one of those twists where, the legal story just gets messy as, the human one. So let's fast forward August 18th, 2024. This is where the discovery happens. So here's where everything stops feeling like speculation and turns into a horror reality. Investigators executed a search warrant on the property owned by Dale. Not the main house, but one of the many pieces of land that he owned near Tipton. And in a sealed, like, fertilizer tank, it's like an ammonia tank, like the kind that farmers use to fertilize crops, they found human remains. Not trash, not debris, not a deer hitching a ride, actual human remains. So the family was recalling that shortly after Dee had disappeared, they saw Dale like painting one of these old fertilizer tanks. And he claimed that the reason he was painting it, mind you, this was like super late at night. Like I'm talking like in the middle of the night, he's awake and painting an old tank. There is no purpose to paint this tank, but he's painting it. And he says that he's doing this because it's like helping him de-stress, and, like brainstorm on what could have happened to Dee, yada, yada, yada. And now we're fast forwarding many years later, and the family is just like, I just think it's so weird that there's like, he was doing that. You know what I mean? So investigators pull up to the property. They find the tank that was painted, just like one tank that was painted. They put it on a truck. They take it to some kind of like weighing station or something like that. And x rays showed something was inside of it. And when they opened it up, It was Dee. Her body was very well preserved. The tank was welded shut and painted over, but it wasn't like the factory weld that I guess is welded on the tanks. It was non-factory welded. So you could tell that a person did that themselves. It was basically a grave that was disguised as farm equipment for like 3 plus years. That's not just criminal ingenuity. That's something like straight out of a horror movie sponsored by John Deere or something. So the devastating aftermath. In the end, Dee's body was indefinitely identified via dental records and she was pretty well preserved. Like they knew it was Dee. The medical examiner ruled her death as a homicide. The cause of death was strangulation and blunt force trauma, not a self inflicted disappearance. Her family finally got closure that they were fighting for. And the sickening, heartbreaking reality of Dee Warner's case, a loving mom, a powerful businesswoman, and a woman who, by all counts, didn't just like walk away, was tragically laid to rest. But again, this is the closure that their family needed. And it was amazing that they found her because they got to put her to rest. You know, it wasn't like this mom, this sister that had just completely disappeared. So, where do things stand today? As of right now, Dale Warner is awaiting trial set to begin later this year, nearly 5 years after Dee vanished. He's pleaded not guilty. Defense teams have filed motions, tried to blow holes in the case and delayed proceedings. But the facts of the body, the tank, and the charges are all very real. And while the legal process plays out, Dee's family is still grieving. They're still remembering her as a strong woman, which she was, and still trying to make sense of how, a thriving life could end in such an ugly, sad way. So that's the heartbreaking story of Vanished in the Heartland, a case that should have been solved in a week, but instead took years, a steel tank, and the relentless persistence of a family to crack this case wide open. A successful woman, a chaotic marriage, and a disappearance that went from mystery to murder in the most chilling way possible. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with me. That last segment was a lot. But now we've reached the end of our show, and this one is for me. And honestly, it might be the most vulnerable thing like shared on this show yet. Because this week, after 6 years of constant hair loss, after losing nearly 70 to 80% of the hair on my head, almost 2 decades of dealing with this on and off, finally did the thing. I shaved my head. And no, this wasn't some impulsive 2007 Britney Spears bathroom floor spiral. This was intentional. This was thought out, and this was calm. I was ready. I was finally ready, and I feel like if you listen to my episode with Elizabeth about her experience with alopecia and shaving her head, I really feel like that helped me a lot. And I do hope that that episode helps a lot of people out there as well. So, yeah, let's just get into this. Here's what people don't always understand about hair loss, especially as a woman and especially as a mom. It is not just hair, it's identity, it's femininity, it's control. It's watching yourself slowly disappear in mirrors, photos, lighting you used to love. It's calculating angles, avoiding wind, avoiding pools, avoiding overhead lights that have personally wronged you. And for me, it's been years of just trying to fix something that my body kept saying, nope, not today or tomorrow. So when I say I was ready, I mean, I was just like done negotiating at that point, and I didn't do it alone. So my mom was there and my sister was there. They did not rush me. They did not make it weird. And they just like didn't try to talk me out of it or like soften it with like false optimism. They showed up, and that's all I needed. Which, if you've ever done something terrifying, you know how much that matters. Not like people who cheer from a distance, but like people who sit on the floor with you and say, okay, let me know when you're ready. You know what I mean? There's something incredibly powerful about being surrounded by people who love you while you let go of something you've been holding on to for far too long. And they made me feel safe in this situation. And emotions, oh my God, the emotions. I expected sadness and I expected grief. I did not expect what was like this rush of relief and freedom, this weird adrenaline, like my body finally exhaled and said, thank you. We're just done pretending. I cried after the fact. I laughed during it. And I felt strong and very exposed at the same time, which is a very confusing combination, by the way. And then I looked in the mirror, and yeah, um, that part is still strange because I don't look like the version of myself I've known most of my life. I look different, bald, adult, and real. Like it's still me. Some days I like catch my reflection and I think, wow, she's really brave. And then other days it's like, who the hell is that? And both of those things can be true at the same time. I'm still getting used to it. I'm still learning this face and I'm still figuring out how to exist in a body that no longer hides behind hair. But here's the thing, I don't feel broken anymore. I don't feel like I'm constantly losing something and I don't feel like I'm fighting my reflection. I just feel honest. It's like I feel like it's like awoken something in me. So, yeah, this was my mom moment for you guys this week, fully unapologetically for me. And if you're listening to this while holding on to something that's hurting you, hair, control, expectations, who you used to be, maybe this is your reminder. You're allowed to let go. You're allowed to choose peace and you're allowed to do it surrounded by love. I'm still adjusting, still emotional, and, still learning how to meet myself in the mirror. But I'm here. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. All right, guys, that's where we're going to leave things today. From beer spills and runaway donkeys to the devastating truth behind Dee Warner's disappearance to one small, very personal moment of letting go. This episode was messy, emotional, and honestly, very on brand for real life. If there is one thing that I was reminded of today, it's that chaos can be funny, tragedy deserves care, and healing doesn't always look pretty. Sometimes it looks like standing in front of a mirror and meeting yourself for the first time. So, just thank you for being here. Truly, thank you for listening, for holding space, and for sticking with me through the laughs and the heavy moments. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the show, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it, whether they need a laugh, a distraction, or a reminder that they are not alone. Until next time, take care of yourselves, be kind to your people, and remember, life is chaotic, the stories are wild, and this is mostly accurate. Okay? Love you. Bye. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The facts are fuzzy. Our stories and opinions are just that, stories and opinions, not meant to be taken as professional advice.